Hey, welcome back. It's hour 2 of Liquid Lunch, and we continue steamrolling along with a terrific Tuesday edition. We're coming to you live as we do every day from noon to 2 Eastern from the Newsmax headquarters in Midtown Manhattan, from the Question Tequila Studios. Downtown, the New York Stock Exchange is still down just a little bit in the red. Bitcoin just about the same, but both holding that 26,000 was the support on the Dow, and 10,000 was support on Bitcoin. I think we're in good shape there, but we're in much better shape right here as Darren Cox joins us. Darren, thank you for crossing the pond and joining us for a Liquid Lunch. I'm going to ask you to sample some of our sponsors' product here. This is a Question Tequila. It's well chilled. It's their finest vintage. It's aged in Jack Daniel's barrels, if that matters to you. But Darren Cox is a powerhouse in the gaming and esports business, and CEO of Millenial Esports, which CEO of anything millennial is probably good these days. But you and I were chatting last night and telling me about all the great things the company's doing, and you had these GT games where you actually turned the gamer into a real race car driver.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Tell us how does that work?
Well, it was a crazy idea, really. Could you take one of millions and millions of kids that are playing games online and turn them into a real racing driver? And it was a crazy idea. We've done it a few times. Last year we were on ESPN with that show. We were partnered with McLaren Formula One. The kid that won that competition became a Formula One simulator driver. And we're repeating the process this year. The guy that wins the competition overall will go racing around the world in Aston Martin GT cars. So,
in a real car?
In a real car.
Wow.
In a real car.
So now a kid who's really into these simulator race cars and everything else, if he progresses with your games and your program and contest, he may actually be in an actual race car on a track somewhere.
Absolutely, that's the plan. And there's a huge amount of talented kids out there that are racing online that will never get the chance to race for real. Steering a steering wheel, pushing pedals, racing against someone is very similar in the virtual world than it is in the real world. Now, I'm not saying that someone that plays Madden can go next week and play in the NFL, but of course, racing, there is a lot of transferable skills from the simulator into the real world, and we're going to prove that. And we've got a load of content out there, short films, huge amount of stuff to show people on social media about how that process is going to happen. How we're going to go for 10 kids that are playing at the moment in their bedrooms and then put them into a real racing car.
You know, I've talked about it many times on the show that I think some of these games, my son John is 13 and he's like nearly addicted to Fortnite. Mm-hmm. And I feel like some of these games are kind of manipulating kids' minds a little bit, where there's this dopamine release that the kids never want to get off the game. Do you guys do things to give them a break from gaming, or
Absolutely.
It's all gaming all the time?
No, we've got some great stories. In fact, our professional team that we run for the Mercedes Formula One team, they have a full-time fitness trainer. So the champion of last year, there was a Mercedes driver. He lost 25 kilos or 50 pounds through a training program we put him through. So gaming's actually making these kids fitter. And we also have mental programs to get them working better with coaching. So it's actually a positive for benefit. And of course, you should keep your son playing that game. There was a 16-year-old kid 2 weeks ago that won $3 million playing Fortnite. So the industry is getting huge. Millenial Esports are really well positioned to take advantage of this explosion in interest in esports.
Darren, for starters, who are you trying to fool with that accent? You're from Brooklyn, aren't you? I mean, come on. That is the...
He heard the whole Piers Morgan thing.
Exactly.
I won't comment on that one.
No, seriously. So the esport, as a business, esports seems to just have exploded over the course of the last decade. What drove the explosion in esports and this incredible popularity that we're seeing?
Well, I think there's two things. There's esports, which is the top of the pyramid. This is where you see...
And that's what you guys do.
Absolutely. The packed-out stadiums. You see the big prizes. The prize pool for the international tournament last weekend in Shanghai was $34 million, the prize pool. When Tiger Woods won the Masters, he won $2 million. So, it is taking over. But at the bottom of that pyramid, you've got a gaming industry that's worth $114 billion. That's bigger than Hollywood. That's bigger than digital music and film combined. So this is an industry that's sort of snuck up on everyone, in that respect. And then out popped this thing called esports. If you watch Ballers on HBO, they're just covering it as a story within that. So it's become a popular cultural thing, probably in the last 12 to 18 months. So it's a young industry. As I say, Millenial Esports, we're positioning ourselves to be leaders in that space.
One of the things John alluded to was his son playing Fortnite, and one of the things that we've seen with Fortnite is that kids use it, or people in general use it as a communications mechanism, not just a gaming mechanism. Is that the same with esports as well?
Yeah, absolutely. The two things are very, combined. You've got millions of players playing it. Amateur with their friends, they're all talking to each other, and then you've got the esports at the top. They're playing the same games. You can progress up that way. But what's interesting is the impact it's having on some other sports. So, the MLS, Major League Soccer in this country, I have to call it soccer. Well, this.
No, you can call it football.
Okay, there we are.
We're fine with that.
Thank you.
I know the FIFA game is hot.
Well, the FIFA game has driven the explosion in Major League Soccer. Kids are finding their sport through gaming rather than finding it through kicking a ball first, as my generation did. So there are a lot of positive impacts on culture and society within there. Music, a lot of the musicians and artists are involved in esports as well. So there's a massive crossover between gaming, esports, and other parts of the culture.
You alluded to one of the common criticisms of gaming in general and esports specifically, which is the criticism that it leads kids to be couch potatoes, or whatever the digital equivalent of a couch potato is. And you talked about these breaks and everything. One criticism that I've heard that I think may have some merit in terms of young people in general spending so much time playing these games is the deleterious effect that it might have on their social skills. If kids are conditioned to interact with people primarily through a video game or esports interface, does it do anything to retard their social development, whereas if they were used to just interacting with strangers on the streets? And how do you deal with that? Not that it's your responsibility to raise everyone's kids, but like it or not, maybe people are giving you that responsibility.
It's just a generational thing. They're communicating in a different way than we did. Our parents, I remember sitting on a home phone, it had a cord on it. You had to, dial the thing.
Ripping the paper off the fax machine.
And all it is a change of culture. They're spending their leisure time in a different way than we were. And that's a cultural change that we've all got to accept.
My last question, and this is going to be quite controversial. Gaming and simulations will be absolutely indistinguishable from reality. And he's said, and he's a pretty smart guy, that he thinks there's an incredible extreme likelihood that because of that, there's a very good chance that we're all living in a computer simulation right now. Give me your take. Are we, in fact, living in a computer simulation?
Well, that is a left field theory. No.
I warned you.
But what's interesting
He goes on the Joe Rogan podcast and smokes some doobies, and anything can come out of his mouth.
Which is different to what you're offering.
What do you think about the question? Not Frank's question.
Let him answer my question.
Well, it gives me more time to think about the answer.
I'm trying to help you out there.
Thank you. But what's interesting is there is this blurring of the lines. We've positioned ourselves. There's a huge amount of interest in autonomous cars, in simulation in the automotive world. The kids aren't being spoken to by the automotive manufacturers in the normal way that we were. So the auto manufacturers are spending money on gaming to talk to them. And they're talking to them about driving their cars in the virtual world, and they then become fans. There's research which shows if you drive a car in a game, you're more likely to purchase it when you're an adult, when you're having a car buying experience. So there is a blurring, but I wouldn't go as far to say that we're living in a computer simulation.
Now here's what I wanna hit you with another zinger here. I know the FIFA game is bringing a lot of kids to soccer, and they're finding their sport. As I mentioned to you yesterday, I'm a pretty avid bocce player, and it takes a tremendous amount of athleticism, skill, endurance to play bocce. It's a 50-foot long court. You got to walk to the other side and back. Gets tough.
Yeah.
It's the fastest growing sport after soccer, after football. Would you guys consider making a bocce game? E-bocce.
I love that.
Don't steal it from me. I mean, I'll promote it or something.
Yeah,
but e-bocce, you get the holder and you're like...
After you mention it to me, I suppose it's the English equivalent of darts.
Okay.
Yeah, you throw the
Lawn
darts on the
darts.
board and then no, the short darts. You'd have to research that as well. But why not? A lot of sports are going into that space, and I think that it does bring another audience to the space. But bocce's the one that's not really hitting me. But you're a numbers guy. You should have done your research. PricewaterhouseCoopers have said the fastest growing sport in the world is esports. Just in front of soccer.
Right.
Bocce,
The sports.
I don't think PwC quite got down to that level of granularity, but esports is there.
We're gonna look into it. Hey, I see it before my own eyes. I mean, I had Atari when I was a kid.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? We played Pong.
We've got a gaming studio out of France in Lyon, and they make the Formula One game for mobile. So maybe I can talk to them about making the bocce game where you throw your phone like that. What do you think?
We're going to hold Darren Cox to that for sure. And I want to thank all our friends at Adam Weiss PR for getting you down here. It was great meeting you last night, and we'll keep in touch with you. Anything going on with the company, let us know. We'll get the word out there. And anytime you're in town, come visit us for a liquid lunch.
Next time you're in the UK, come over and we can play some darts together.
I sure will. Darren Cox is one of the predominant experts in esports, and I want to thank him again for being here. Thank you for being there. Stay put. We'll take a 2-minute break and be back right after this.